bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
I need your help to get to the year 1985. You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? Today's Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. Tonight, David Palmer. Let's do this, man. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer, and NX Networks. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? Tonight, we welcome very special guest. David Palmer is here, the Leo King. We're going to do it all tonight from A to Z. That's right, with David. Very excited about tonight's show. Tomorrow is another Fader night with open lines all night long. That's right. The only way to wrap up a week here on Fade to Black is with all of you Fader knots and the conversations that we have on Thursday night. That's going down. And now, before I get started tonight, man, I got to tell you, I'm all Elvised out. I'm Elvised out. Man. Today I listened to Aloha from Hawaii via satellite, the entire album, and then some of the other stuff, the dress rehearsals. I listened to that. And then I watched the concert video, this special multi-camera video that has been done by this director and producer and fan of Elvis. I watched that twice. I posted it up on Twitter. I was all emotional, man. And I mean, holy crap, what a day. And all of that while working, getting stuff done and writing, and it was all very emotional, man. It was emotional. I must say, I'm Elvised out. It was what a trip down memory lane. And this multi-camera video with the audio has been enhanced. So not enhanced, improved. So you've got the reverb taken away and all of the effects, and everything is just right in your face. And his vocals, when they're that dry, I mean, just incredible. And you're seeing this in high def, multi-cameras at this, different angles that, and I've seen the concert so many times, and you see it in this format. Wow. And I started it over. I watched it twice. Anyway, Elvised out. And man. And I want to say this. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about some other stuff in just a minute. And while I was writing and researching that stuff, and Elvis is going on, and I'm watching, man, I got all emotional. Man, It was like heavy duty. And I'll explain what I'm talking about in just a bit. Now, everything that I'm doing, everything, all the films and our sponsors on the show and events that I'm doing, everything is in the description box below. Go and click. All of our social media is there. Everything is right below. Go visit our sponsors. And everything, of course, is over at jimmychurchradio.com and throughout social media as well. Okay, so visit our sponsors. Follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. Now, today, so you can follow me on Twitter if you wish, if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. The sandbox is hashtag F2B on Twitter. And also, any questions or comments, hashtag F2BQ. Now, Twitter's always live right in front of me. You've got anything to say, post it there. Later on, right now, I'm not looking at the chat rooms. That happens later. You know, I'm not looking at myself. I've got screens blocked out. I don't see what you guys are talking. No. That's just a distraction. There you go. Stephen Owen, though, on Twitter. It's got Elvis. That's the Vegas. Oh man, that's such a great concert. Anyway, enough Elvis. I'm Elvised out. I didn't think that was possible in my world, but over on Instagram, I posted a video today. I also uploaded it to YouTube. I did it for Instagram, and then I just popped it over on YouTube. It didn't really fit on YouTube, but I did it anyway. I was here working, and I came in and I had to do some stuff, and it's hard to explain cables and stuff. And I was working, and I just looked around. I went, man, this is a great office. So I just for myself, I shot a video and I just stood in the middle of the bunker. Just that's all I did. I just, went in a circle and I watched the video and went, man, I'm going to post that. So I popped it up on Instagram and then I popped it up on YouTube. I don't know why I did it, but I was in this emotional state. I was in a great mood. I still am. And BrainPEAK 9. And there you go. All right. So if you want to see that video, go over to Instagram, Jimmy Church Radio over on Instagram. Hanging out there today with David Palmer. All right, let's get to the breaking news. Crazy. Every day on this show, every day, I go, man, crazy breaking news. Today's no exception. I'm going to start here. SpaceX fired at least 5 employees after it found out that they had drafted and circulated a letter criticizing founder Elon Musk and urging executives to make the firm's culture more inclusive. SpaceX President Gwynne Shotwell sent an email out saying that the company had investigated and terminated a number of employees involved with the letter. Shotwell's email said employees involved with circulating the letter had been fired for making other staff feel uncomfortable, intimidated, and bullied, and or angry because the letter pressured them to sign on to something that they did not, and it didn't reflect their views, end quote. All of that from Shotwell in her email. The SpaceX letter headed, and I quote, an open letter to the executives of SpaceX, end quote, called Musk a distraction and embarrassment to the company he founded. Now they got fired. Incredible. Now, check this out. One of Elon Musk's children has petitioned a California court to recognize her new name and gender, saying that she no longer wishes to be related to her father, and I quote, in any way, shape, or form, end quote. Musk's daughter just turned 18 and made the filing with the county court in Los Angeles. She requests that her legal name be changed to Vivian Jenna Wilson. Wilson is the name of her mother, Justine Wilson, Elon's ex-wife. Incredible. Now, just don't look up. My favorite movie of the year. It's going to be hard to top that one. I probably watched it 10 times. I hate to admit it, but yes. No, I want to admit it. Probably 10 times, maybe more. Well, now I'm telling you to just look up. A comet first spotted in deep space in 2017 might finally be within view. Comet C 2017 K2 Pan-STARRS, called K2 for short, was the farthest active comet ever spotted, a title it recently surrendered to the mega comet, Comet Bernadette-Bernstein, detected last year. I told you all about it. But now, 5 years later, it's finally within reach of Earth. K2's closest approach to our planet will be next month on July 14th, and it will get closest to the sun on December 19th. We don't know if you're going to be able to see it yet with the naked eye. You'll probably be able to see it with just a small telescope, maybe even binoculars. But we'll see if you can see it with the naked eye. Comets are unpredictable. We know that. But we know that July 14th is the night. All right? Depends on light pollution where you live. If you are in a totally black sky, they're saying you might be able to see it with the naked eye. It's going to be really cool. Well, here we go. It's been 45 years, and now it's the end of an era as NASA prepares to shut down the Voyager probes, which made it deeper into space than any man-made object in history. Both probes launched in 1977, with Voyager 2 launching 2 weeks before Voyager 1 on September 5th. Yes, that's the way it went down. 2 left before 1. NASA had previously said that the Voyagers were destined, maybe forever, to wander the Milky Way. But the plutonium-powered probes are losing energy by about 4 watts a year. Now, NASA has made the decision to reduce power on the probes, which will extend their life just a few more years, till about 2030. It's over. Incredible. Now, in the holy crap, I can't believe this is real category, NASA wants to build and transport a nuclear reactor to the moon, which would power a sustained human presence for at least 10 years. Now, the space agency has chosen 3 companies to develop design concepts for a nuclear fission system to be placed on the moon in conjunction with the Artemis program. Yesterday, NASA announced that it awarded contracts to Lockheed Martin, Westinghouse, and a company called FOR. That's right, FOR, which is a joint venture with Intuitive Machines and X Energy. The contracts are in partnership with the United States Department of Energy. That's right, the DOE, and are each worth approximately $5 million. All right. And the biggest news of the day, Kraft Macaroni and Cheese. It's changing its name after 85 years. It's now called Mac and Cheese. And that is your breaking news. How can they can't do that? But they did. It's already done. The packaging is done. It's called Mac and Cheese. What are you going to do? All right, let's get this show cracking. On this day in history, OTD 2011. After 16 years on the run from law enforcement, Whitey Bulger, the Boston mob boss wanted for 19 murders, is arrested right here in Santa Monica, California. Police found weapons, fake identification, and more than $800,000 in cash stashed in the walls of Bulger's apartment. We all saw Departed in 2006, right? We all saw it. We all saw the movie. Who knew that 5 years later he'd be arrested down the street from my house? It was a crazy day. I was like, what? Dude was walking around Santa Monica like he owned the place. 16 years. Crazy. Nobody knew. Fader fact. In 2011, 59-year-old James Verone robbed a bank for $1. Right? Walked into the bank, said, I want $1. Then he sat down on the ground, waiting for the police. He did this in order to get sent to prison and receive treatment for pancreatic cancer. However, once he was in the clink, he learned that he didn't have cancer. And then he struck a deal with prosecutors for an early release after just 1 year in prison. Look it up. It's a crazy story. It's vetted. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, we welcome very special guest David Palmer is going to be here in just a few short minutes. The Leo King is on Fade to Black tonight. It's going to be a great show. Get ready for that. And tomorrow night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. RiverMoonWellness.com. Best coffee in the world. Fade to Black blend. It's got my picture on it. That's how you know it's mine. My picture is on the bag. That's right. Go to RiverMoonWellness.com and get your coffee grinder out. Oh, get whole bean. Don't get it ground. Whole bean. Get a coffee grinder. Best coffee in the world. Get the ceremony going. All right. Tonight, we welcome very special guest David Palmer and the Leo King. He is here. He's going to be with us in a few short minutes. Tomorrow night's another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, man, what an emotional day. All right. Thank goodness for River Moon Coffee and BrainPEAK 9. Last night, had a lightning storm above my house. If you live in Southern California, you know what I'm talking about. Thunderstorms rolled in, and it never. We don't have thunderstorms here, and but it went down last night, and I was watching the new Werner Herzog documentary. He makes the best documentaries in the world, and I was listening to it really loud in my bedroom after the show. And it's a documentary about volcanoes and the crafts. And the crafts went out and made documentaries about volcanoes, died while doing it. And so that's what the documentary is about. I've got it cranked up, and it's Herzog. It's great. And while I'm watching the volcanic action on the big screen in my bedroom, I could see behind my TV, I've got a big window here with blinds that are closed. Here I've got a set of sliding glass doors that go out onto the balcony, right? So these two massive pieces of glass are here, but the blinds are closed, and I could see them lighting up. I was like, man, what's going on outside? I couldn't hear it because of the documentary. I go out on my patio last night, and you remember Tom Cruise at the beginning of War of the Worlds. You remember when the lightning was in the sky and he jumps back, and it's like, it was like that. As a matter of fact, it was the same thing. And I'm standing, it wasn't even raining yet, and I saw lightning, the whole sky, big, right over my house. There was one single lightning bolt. It was the coolest. It was all dramatic. Stretched across, big. There, a bunch of them collided in front of me and sparked, like exploded. I was like, man, this is great. I was out there for half an hour. 1 o'clock in the morning, man. It was nuts. And I'm standing there. I got no shirt on, shorts, flip-flops, and in the dark, watching this lightning storm. It was insane. So anyway, and I have my new pillows. So I go back in, and I finish the documentary, and I'm watching everything light up, and so it was just emotional. It was crazy. So this morning. I started in with this Elvis. Ken Priest post this stuff. Hey Ken, how you doing? That he is doing Elvis and I'm doing Elvis at the same time, and that kind of synchronicity was kind of weird. We're both doing Aloha via satellite, and so I'm going through that, and then I get the news. Renee, our producer here, sends me the news from NASA about Voyager. You know, Voyager 1 and 2 are about to be unplugged. And I got to say, I've got Elvis going on. I'm all emotional. And I got really sad about this. I did. Let me explain. When the Voyagers were launched, there was a lot of stuff going on around it and the launches of this at the same time. We had lots of media. This was a big deal. The first interstellar probes, and then we're going to go by, sling by Saturn and do that. I mean, it was just crazy technology. Lots of media behind it. You had Carl Sagan. He's doing all the talk shows, talking about the technology that they had on board the Voyagers. You know, records and music and images. You know, naked men and women and that, you know, just in case, right? If we bump into ET, they will know. We'll have our solar system there and Earth mapped out, and we'll put some music on there. I think they put Johnny B. Good, right? Well, anyway, so you had all of that. You had all of the languages of the world, the people of the world saying hello in every language, right? To go and meet E.T. And then there was Star Trek. I forget what the movie was, you know, but Voyager, right? Remember that? Was it First Contact? I think it was Star Trek. Was that the name of the movie? I just blurted it out right there. But Voyager, right? And E.T. and they want to meet Voyager. Okay, so there was all of this happening at the same time. There was so much hope around the two Voyagers that one day E.T. would bump into one of them or both. You know, and I dreamed about this all the time. Why? Well, because it made sense. You know, I heard it so much. It was everywhere. It just became a part of my thought process. You know, and pretty much the same thing for the rest of the world. But now, it's not going to happen. And I'm bummed about that. They're going to shut it down. The original talk from NASA. Now, this goes back now 40 years, 45 years, was that Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, if it took 50,000 years, they would eventually run into a star system and the planets and who might be there. And it's 50,000 years away. So are we going to get, no, we would have to wait 50,000 years for any radio transmissions or photographs or anything like that. But maybe ET would see these orbiting probes around their planet and go and check it out and everything. And now, no, it's simply not going to happen. I mean, maybe we'll make contact, but as space debris with an ET star cruiser. What was that? We hit something. That's how contact's going to happen. ET will never know that the scattered wreckage, the stream of debris, probably a light year behind them at the speed that they're going to be traveling, they'll never know that it came from Earth. They will simply never know. And I've been planning on this my entire life. And I'm really, 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 really bummed. So there you go. And I blame it all on Elvis and David Palmer. So there you go. This is Fade to Black. We've got a huge show tonight. David Palmer, the Leo King, is here. It's just been an amazing 24-hour run around me and my world, and it has just put me in a very special place. And I'm very excited that David Palmer is here tonight. I just spent the weekend with him, going to be with him this weekend, and he's here with us tonight. All right, this is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Let's take a quick break, and I'll be right back with tonight's guest, David Palmer. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night is Fader Night with open lines all night long. You need to go and click on that link and watch that Elvis concert with the multiple cameras. It's incredible. You have both the audio and the video treatment done. It's insane. Do it. Thank me later. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. That's right. On the Game Changer and UNX Networks, Race Hobbs. I'll be right back with David Palmer after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UNXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UNXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UNX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time. It's new. It's the X.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Manson. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, David Palmer is here. I was talking about the lightning storm last night out on my patio, and I walked out there, and I was like, man, it smells just like my thunderstorm. And I'm outside, I'm smelling like, that's what it smells like in my house. Thunderstorm, 3-pack deal. Click right now. It's absolutely incredible. I experienced it last night. Like I'm about to experience David Palmer, lightning in a bottle, man. Known as a famous celebrity astrologer, David Lawrence Palmer has been making waves in the media with being a media spiritual influencer. Having been on TV for over a decade, owning, co-founding, and producing the largest video horoscope media network and app, High Vibe TV, David has created a reputation for being the go-to spiritual influencer around the world. He currently owns the Leo King Inc., 12th House Media, and is the founder of High Vibe TV and Spiritual Dance Music. His website, of course, is theleoking.com. We've got the links all over social media. You know what to do. Now, I would like to welcome, this is officially, David, your first time on Fade to Black. This is the official version. Last week was an anomaly that was just a thing. So tonight you get the first time guest disclaimer.
I'm super excited to be here. Yeah, last week was an anomaly, but it was awesome with all the Disclosure Fest peeps, and Disclosure Fest was awesome.
It is. So let's get the Disclosure Fest, or the disclaimer out of the way, which is, David, it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends, and where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends. But we're going to end as friends. There you go. Next time you're on the show, no disclaimer. Okay? Cool. So enjoy the moment. Enjoy. I want to start here, actually. Did you have lightning? Did you guys have thunderstorms last night?
It was weird. I was watching TV, and then in the reflection of one of my, off my balcony, I was able to see, I thought it was some other person playing with lights or something.
That's what I thought. Until
because I didn't see clouds. That was the weirdest part. I was like, "There's no clouds anywhere." I'm like,
"There's no rain." I know. And for the audience, they need to understand we don't have that in Southern California. We don't have thunderstorms. We don't have lightning, and so when it happens for us, it's like a big deal, man. And it's like, wow. In the Midwest, even when it
sprinkles, it's a big deal here for rain.
I know, it's so funny. We freak out, and the rest of the country just laughs at us. But we enjoy the moment. And I stood out there last night for 30 minutes watching this lightning storm, literally above Palmdale, above my house, and it was dramatic, man. It was the full sky. Crazy.
They closed the beaches too here in down in Orange County until this morning.
I was waiting, it's not a morose thought, but when you're seeing that, you're like, okay, is the mothership going to come through is the lightning bolts, going to start striking humanity? Is this, and so I was just kind of waiting for that to happen. But I was
wondering if Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were going to just drop back down here and just fall on us.
Now, actually, I wanted to go into that with you before we get into everything else tonight. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, you're a little younger than me, but we're about the same age. And Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, we grew up with. This was like a really big deal. And you dealing with the universe and planets and stars, Voyager going out interstellar, right? Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 was a big deal. And you talked about it on stage this past weekend. You actually mentioned it. And then today it's announced that they're shutting down. How do you feel about that?
It's actually been part of my work for over a decade, especially during 2012 and the Mayan calendar shift, to see Voyager 1 in 2012 being the first one that actually did reach the heliopause into the heliosphere, that place where we actually didn't know how far out until we get to interstellar space. That was really an interesting moment. And to me, it's been consciously that's a contraption. It's a probe that humanity built. And for it to go out to interstellar space is why we're all been feeling like this. What dimension are we in? Where are we going? Because if you think about it consciously, we actually have a probe, 2 of them, that have gone through these crazy markers that get us out of our bubble of our solar system. And then it was 2018 with Voyager 2 that took the pictures of Pluto. And that was what was interesting as an astrologer, because, Pluto's supposedly not a planet, but you like it so much, you really wanted to go take some pictures of that thing. And then we saw 2019 into 2020, Voyager 2 go into the same space that Voyager 1 did. And then, of course, 2020 and all the weird stuff that's been going on. There's connections to these things.
There is a huge connection. And here's, for me, I don't want to say contact, because I feel that me personally, I've already done that. And I know that so many in our audience are here because of their contact experiences, whatever it is. You see something, or maybe it's something else. But so contact is the wrong word. But wouldn't it be cool if some craft out there spots it on their radar and goes, there's something out there, right? There's something, let's go check that out. Right. And pull up and discover this and find out about us. That's like hope, right? That's hope. And now it's not going to happen, man. I'm kind of bummed.
I don't know. I think with 2017 in Oumuamua, that was at the same time when actually Voyager 1 was in the heliopause, in the heliosphere, and finally creeping out. So as something was going out, something was coming in. So people have to start to think about, there's a tie between all these and that asteroid that came from another solar system. So both are dealing with our 2 probes leaving, and we had something come in from outside our solar system, all within the span of both probes leaving.
Yeah, it's strange. And you can't forget about Pioneer 10.
Right.
Technically there's 3. Now let's talk about Oumuamua. You discussed this. Okay, everybody. So David is speaking at Disclosure Fest, and I'm introducing him, and he's running a little late. Okay, so that's fine. And but the audience was pretty excited and getting a little antsy. And so David, as opposed to normally what is happening, is if somebody is speaking, they're there for a couple hours, they're warming up, that's not how David rolls. So David, and I see him, and so I start introducing him when he was a quarter mile away. I could see his feet.
Double parked.
Yeah, double parked. Walks. I literally introduce him. He walks onto the stage and goes. And so I went and sat next to the stage and watched your delivery. And very professional, very cool. And that's how you do it. You just walk up on the stage and light it up like that. And it was very passionate, and I really enjoyed it. Your comments about Oumuamua were great, but I don't agree with them. So let's talk about that for a second. You pointed out the obvious, what the data showed. Oumuamua pulls in from interstellar space, cruises by the sun, increases speed without gravity assist, takes a turn, accelerates to 250,000 miles per hour. It's ripping. We only saw it for 11 days, and then it's gone. And it'll never, the data that we have right now is all, that's it. We will never collect any more data on Oumuamua. I believe that it was metallic. You want to say that it's an asteroid. That's fine. What I want to know is when you look at the data, you've come to the conclusion that you feel that it was an asteroid. Was it under intelligent control to you? Was it a space rock with engines on it? And why do you feel that it's an asteroid?
Well, using Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 is, I would call it more of a probe. I mean, our idea of what maybe an alien probe would look like would, of course, associate with being like human and having a record from the Beatles on it in every language and the whole entire world. But something that would come out of our system, whether it's metallic, whether it's an asteroid, that would come in and be sniffing around. And ironically, 2017, that's when all this really weird stuff really started going on with media, with
TTSA, Tom DeLonge,
right? Just this whole thing. And astrologically, it was tapping into all these really weird discoveries that would start beginning, because then 2 years after that would be with Jupiter and Sagittarius. We had Saturn in Sagittarius. When that happened in 2017, we found the black hole picture. There just keeps to be all these huge discoveries since that moment. And so, like, really all potent ones. And then also at the same time in the world, we're getting this energy of where people start having this awakening moment. Like there's something else going on here. Like, and what is going on? The whole question of what's really happening, right? Whether people were for Trump or not, there was a lot of questions about, well, what is this Trump as president? And what is really going on behind the scenes? Or how did this happen? We start hearing about Russian collusion. We start hearing about all these things where everybody is in a weird box of divisiveness and craziness. To me, if there was some, it almost was checking up on or looking at or sending a signal of like, we're watching and we're out. The same way, like, are we really pulling the plug on those things? They really were obsessed with getting those things out there. And just, I think about a month ago, they were saying how, well, we're having to turn them a certain way because the batteries are going to last, but not much longer to keep connection. They were talking about how they were going to keep the connection going just a month ago.
They were going to reboot and go to an alternate system. They had a backup system in place that is always there in case of situations like this. So I thought everything was cool. You're right about that. Yeah, that was a pretty big announcement, actually.
Well, and I would say that anything as an astrologer is consciousness, right? So if it's metallic, if it's an asteroid, the idea that, Mark Twain had, right, with Halley Bopp, the comet, right? He was born with it. And he also wrote right before he died, as it was re-showing up, he goes, I'll probably leave with it. And he died right when it showed up. So it's one of those things where whatever it is, and it's coming into our solar system and it's playing around in a unique way, as an astrologer, there's some meaning behind it. And that goes into the meaning of what magistrates were doing back in the Roman days. If we had problems like we have today, we have a Senate, we have a judicial system, we have an executive, there would have been a magistrate. There would have been like, okay, all these systems are all going haywire. What do the divine, magistrates say? It's like, well, we're having famine issues. Let's see what's going on above. As above, so below. So there is something that's been, I guess, the overall feeling of something has infiltrated our collective consciousness, right? Where there's this weird energy and we're trying to figure out what it is. And that's really what Oumuamua is to me, is that feeling beginning really extreme. And also the same feeling as our own species created these two probes that are taking pictures of Pluto, which Pluto we don't consider a planet anymore, but it rules in astrology Scorpio, which has to deal with truth, sex, being naked, going to the deeper core, what's really behind things. And so I think it's interesting. Those are the big, most taboo subjects in our reality. Yet, so we're going to wipe that planet off. But we're going to be so obsessed. Pluto also rules obsession, and so does Scorpio. So it's like there's this obsession with getting to Pluto to take these pictures. And then just even recently, within the last 3 months, they found this bacterial, like organic, like life that's being grown or growing on Pluto. So there's a lot more than them just turning these things off and acting like they got what they needed out of it, in my opinion.
Now, if we go back, I want to stay on Pluto, actually. Literally, I want to stay on Pluto. When everything started to kick off, August, September, October of 2017, leading up to December 17th of 2017, when the New York Times did their article, you had the planned star in Hawaii detect Oumuamua. That happened. A month later, Tom DeLonge announces TTSA, and then things just started to kick off. What was
Space Force was getting its talk?
Yes.
The solar eclipse, the Great American Eclipse that Trump didn't wear the glasses to watch at the White House in August of 2017.
And then the documentary is released, in the announcement of the first photograph of a black hole, which we had been waiting for forever. Still one of the great documentaries, by the way. And the ending, when they finally reveal and get all the software to congeal and work together, it was crazy. Anyway, all of this is happening at the same time, and the media has got all of this stuff to talk about, and it wasn't limited to anything, not to this community. This was a global thing, all happening at the same time. What were the planets telling you at this time? What were the stars saying? Was this an event that was building up?
Well, yeah, if you take that solar eclipse, the Great American Eclipse, it had been over 100 years since we had an eclipse that eclipsed all of America, where people, I don't know if you remember, there were sold out hotels all the way from the top of Washington all the way down to Georgia, where a Great American Eclipse happened, where it was 100% total eclipse, where there was
Where were you for the eclipse? I was at Mount Shasta.
I was actually just in Southern California. So
I saw it at 95% in the zone that we were in. You know what was crazy about that? I'm going to continue with this discussion, but I had never experienced a full eclipse. It got cold instantly. It was like 90, 95 degrees. Everything was fine. Everything was cool. And then all of a sudden, everything went dark. And just like that, it was like you opened up a refrigerator, and the coldness hit your face. It was like that. It was for like 10 minutes. I was like, man, this is once in a lifetime here, man. That
I mean, people used to die thousands of years ago from the freak out.
I totally get. You know what? I mentioned that. What, if you don't know this is coming and it just happens, you freak, man.
Right? I mean, that's kind of the irony of the eclipse being total through a country. When it happens, you see these huge moments in that country or the area in which it happened. So that literally kicked off the American craziness that we've been continuing to see. But of course, America is also the center of a lot of the discoveries that have been going on, especially with that Oumuamua. And when you actually look at the astrology at that time, that was a solar eclipse in Leo on the star Regulus, which rules Leo, the regal royal star, which ironically, every 72 years, that fixed star that's on the ecliptic progresses 72 years, 1 degree. And ironically enough, in 2012, it progressed to 0 Virgo. So it had been in Leo for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And then here we finally saw in 2012 it moving to Virgo, which has been the end of the monarchies and the end of the, no longer, and also was the end of celebrity, because celebrity is ruled by Leo. And if you kind of can tell by 2017, the irony of this celebrity not being the coolest thing in the world, but the people of Virgo, the people of the earth that are here to bring service and do things for others, that's the new celebrity. And so if you really look deep at it, like this is about humanity and people coming back together, and it not being so much about the glam anymore. That's one of the things that it really highlighted, because we all have to come together, because I'm somebody who connects all the dots. So if I take today's astrology and I go, literally, it's all about how do we get rid of our differences and come together for the very amazing humanity we have, to get over these really silly issues that really can be fixed if we all came together. It all comes down to a lot of the events of 2017 and even prior, but that was also a very intense time because, it was a solar eclipse that went through America and literally put a divide through the country. And if you actually look at where that eclipse started, right up in Seattle, where a lot of craziness happened, and you follow all the way down to Georgia, where there's been a lot about the election and all that weird stuff we've been seeing, it's all connected. If you follow that eclipse line, it'll blow your mind about all the stories that have been connected over this last 5 years about everything that's been so dividing us, that's been so, incredible about seeing whether or not we can get over our own issues and learn to come together and be of service to each other.
And I wanted to ask you about Pluto. Pluto, okay. You've got a lot of your fans here tonight, and the Black audience has a pretty basic grip on our star system and astrology and an understanding of it. But our star system and most other star systems run on an ecliptic. And so the sun is in the middle and everything is flat. So if you're looking at it from the side, everything is orbiting in the same plane, except Pluto. Pluto is whack, right? And it's
the ruler of the underworld, because it goes under the ecliptic in declination. Declination is the defining of if you're below by degree or above by degree. And so 23 degrees, the 23 degree tilt on the Earth, 23 degrees in our precession of the equinox from the Earth's understanding of the ecliptic, but from the sun too. Once you dip under 23 degrees, you're going into the underworld, and Pluto likes to do that. Pluto likes to go spend half of its transit underneath. We just lived through the beginning of the 1900s to just up until about 2016, 2017, Pluto above. We've been on this weird trajectory as Pluto's been taking us into the other world. And this is why people are starting to get very biblical. Is this revelations happening? And it's irony, because by 2020, as Pluto was heading down by the galactic center, believe it or not, which is the Southern Cross in the sky, where you see the Sagittarius to Capricorn, where they come together. Ironically, as Pluto's coming there, 2017, and then by 2020, you see Saturn and you see Pluto, and then you see Jupiter. So you see all three planets come together, and that's by January 12th of 2020. And that's exactly when we hear about Wuhan, and the rest is history.
Now,
last time that happened was 1284.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of Dante. And Dante was 19 years old, and he started writing about the Divine Comedy and Purgatory and Inferno and Paradiso. It's also at the time when the Inquisitions started to go against the Knights Templar, and there's a lot of stories about the Ben stone and whether or not they were taking that stone away. That was an alien stone that the Egyptians used to have. You can go into it, gets real deep.
Now, before we get to the break, staying on Pluto for a second, and we'll pick it up when we come back. Pluto has only moved like 10 degrees in the sky since it was discovered. Its orbit around the sun is almost 250 years, right? So its descent and its crossing into the galactic center, this isn't something that is going to be into and then over and done with quickly. Pluto's in a 250-year orbit. So this
it's been a lot more than 10 degrees. Yeah. I mean, it was found in 1930. So we're already at 90 years in, right?
Yeah, 90 years. Okay. Look, man, I'm not an astronomer. I just play one on the radio. Okay. But I know I'm close.
It's where, the Depression was. So we're in the exact opposite, because Pluto might be on a 248-year cycle. But the irony is, in the zodiac, it speeds up. So it's its fastest through certain signs and it's slowest through other signs because it's not perfect in its circumference.
No,
Correct.
it's in an oval, it's an ellipse. And
So we went from Cancer in the 20s into the 30s when it was found to Capricorn, where it's about to leave at the end of this year and come into Aquarius. So we're in the exact opposite of where our grandparents were and our great grandparents of the Depression. And now it's about entitlement, right? Like, I can't have that job, but back then it would have been like, I'll take whatever you can get so I don't have to eat soup, right?
It's exactly right. And the reason why I bring this up is because Pluto, it seems that being kicked out of the solar system, right? It's not a planet anymore. It's just a large thing. That's what they're calling it, right? Okay,
a dwarf planet, yeah,
the dwarf planet, but its importance is significant. Its changes are gradual. It's on a degreed orbit, different from everything else, and its impact is very important. It's not a dwarf planet that doesn't matter. Pluto matters.
Yes, ironically too, it was also Pluto rules financial as well. So how we have hidden money, right? And the hidden money that's behind things is hidden investments. So everything that is dealing with what as humanity we don't want to talk about or that we have troubles with is what Pluto represents, literally. And I find it ironic in cancel culture today, the number one most canceled thing is Pluto, because it deals with everything that the news doesn't want to cover, anything that's dealing about truth or exposure. I mean, it brings up a lot of sensitive subjects, but it also, I always look at P as power. Like it's 0 or 100. You could times anything by 0, it'll go to nothing, or you could add anything by 0 and go to infinite numbers. So Pluto is this radical force in our life of life and death. And ironically, we gave it life and we gave it death too.
Yeah, it's crazy. We'll continue the conversation where we're leaving off right now when we come back after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only David Palmer. David, we've had our fill of each other this week, my man. It's awesome. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back after this short break. More with David Palmer on the UnX and Game Changer Network. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campabasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film. Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. He's so now. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, BrainPEAK 9. BrainPEAK 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right right now for a limited time if you use the discount code FADER. That's right, FADER. Just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. Help improve your brain function. Go to BrainPEAK9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fadernauts. That's BrainPEAK9.com. Discount code FADER. And the links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier, and I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers, and you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Right now, just for the Fadernauts, BrainPEAK 9 special promo code FADER, FADER. You get a 2-month supply. Click on the link below. This is how I hang with David Palmer right there. That's the only way this is going down. Now, David, in your presentation the other day, and I was just glued. I listened to every word, but I wanted to circle back and address one of your sections of this, which was how to use astrology not to to stay in front of it and not to react to it and how you can apply it to your life. And we can get into vibrations and everything else, but you were very direct with everybody and used some very colorful language when you were speaking about this. And I was listening to you, but I was watching, it was packed, right? I was watching everybody now. They got it. And that type of communication, to do this in astrology where people tiptoe around, and you choose not to do that. And so can we address that and maybe expand on that a little bit, on how to use this information for your benefit and stay out in front of it instead of others who just react?
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I feel that astrology is so, it's been stigmatized, right? And so instead of playing the victim, and a lot of astrologers play that whole like we're not heard enough, or you go out and do the work and you show the world what it does, And so I feel like a good example was 2020, knowing that alignment with Pluto and Saturn, which hadn't happened in the same area as Pluto was coming below the ecliptic, hadn't happened since 1284. It was pretty much for years me warning people, by the time we hit 2020 here, we're going to have to look into it. Also had hit in 1517, Martin Luther on the church, nailing his, way that he feels that life should be going, all the way to, the Knights Templar. You can look at all these things where there's going to be issues with government. There's going to be issues with control. There's going to be issues with, divisiveness. It's staying on top of it and preparing people for it, because you can't stop. The one thing that's constant, we always say, is change. But ironically enough, the only thing that actually really is constant is the planets. We know exactly when the full moon's going to be. We exactly know when the new moon's going to be. We know exactly when, like starting in 2 days, we're going to have 5 planets that you can see in the sky yourself. It's been it's been almost 100 years since we've been able to see that. So, it's like staying on top of it is just being aware of it in life when there's going to be, the tides. We use the tides as a good example. Like, yeah, if the tide's, out, I probably am not going to try and launch my jet ski. I'm going to wait till the tide comes up. It'll be a lot easier. So these tides come in our life. These planetary bodies move in certain ways. And we use history to look back and go, okay, what happened when these planets were in this place? Okay, that happened. Let's go back again. What happened then? And finding that common thread. And when you can find that common thread, it's the same way in how we can find a common thread in humanity of how to get through things, or in our own lives. The common thread of, that was when I went through a divorce because I did that, or that was when I went through that stupid time when I was with all those people, and this is coming back again. I'm not going to do that again. So it's about being aware of our patterns, being aware of how we can make the shift in our life to make ourselves grow better, and to make ourselves as a collective be more aware of what's really going on, instead of being so blindsided and freaking out over conspiracy theories and stuff like that, where we could take us down the wrong holes, and have a stable understanding of things, and still being open to the journey that we're living in.
And so by doing this, it's almost like advice. It's not quite a warning, but just be aware that this is going on and this is about to happen, and keep your eyes open and stay in control, right? That's what you want to do, as opposed to after the fact and then playing the blame game.
Yeah, we're always running from something that we don't want anymore. We're running towards something that we want. So I feel like, it's in life learning to find the peace with what's happening, and being aware in the old days, it was called hermeticism, being able to really look at both sides of everything in life, and making sure that in order to have facts, we have to look at both sides. We have to look at the dark and the light. We have to look at the masculine and the feminine. We have to look at these things before we jump to conclusions all the way. And as astrologers, we can see the history and we can present it to people, but we don't know how that will play out in the current times. We can give the vibrations, we can give the energy, we can give the flavors. But the whole beautiful part about this experience is that we're the ones part of it, and that we're in it, or else it wouldn't be an experience at all if we knew it fully. So we can get real close to how the scene's going to play out. This is definitely going to be a scene that might be a little darker than the last part of the movie we've been in, but there's always a great moment that comes after it and the reasons why. So it helps people start to really put together in their own lives and in our collective that we're all going through, how can we contribute more and understand even in our own charts what our great skills are, where we could learn to grow more in ourselves, and how we can come together better. I look at us all as beautiful puzzle pieces that we're all just trying to come together.
There were, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but a few of my friends, really good astrologers, were there to hear you speak. And I know them personally, right? And they were very keyed in on this. And one of them specifically reads my charts for me a couple of times a year. And every time, and this started with me about 5 years ago, did a deep reading, right? And everything, and you're going to laugh, go ahead, but nearly everything played out as said, like to the day, to the week, to the month, over the next couple of months. And all I did was play the part of the observer, right? Yeah. I was like, okay, how's this? Okay, now this is pretty interesting. This is pretty whack. And then I have to go back and say, okay, well, this is not coincidence. And I wasn't as in tune with it over the years. You know what I mean? I didn't pay as much attention to it, but when you have really good astrologers around you and they do this, and then you take the time to observe, it's not coincidence, is it? It's just not.
It's synchronicity. It's divine alignment. It's alignment. I mean, we call them alignments. And so people go to chiropractors every day to get realigned, right? But
right.
It's more like, are we open to allowing the alignments to happen, even when they could be, kind of hard for us to maybe deal with? It's the more that we're open to it and that we know. And I think it depends on the astrologer knowing how to interpret that no matter what challenge there might be, or even great moment, we don't want to be living our lives always in peaks and valleys. We want to be able to always find our center and to find a good understanding of what's going on, to grow and to live our best life that we can. And really it is as more, I guess you could call it an observer, but I'd like to say it's more of the awareness, right? You have to be unconscious to be conscious. And so it's really what Carl Jung brought up, and he used astrology to create today what we know of the shadow, and especially even today's modern psychology is all based upon astrology. And it's in our everyday, right? When we talk about an hour, that's Horus, which was, of course, the son of Osiris on the horizon, which is Horus's zone. And where do we find that hour? And then when the sun sets, right? We say sunset. That's where Set, who would be known as today as like the devil, was the one that took down the light and took down into the darkness. So it's we're saying astrology in our lives every day. We're living it in our lives every day, but it goes past a lot of people.
How many times, again, you can laugh at any point, but how many times are you around somebody that's not connected, that lives in a 2D existence, that believes that
I haven't heard that one in a long time.
I know. Yeah, right. That believes happiness is going to work for 8 hours a day and working towards a 4-bedroom house with a tennis court in the back, that's happiness, and closed off to everything else. But they'll sit and complain and talk about things that are going on in their lives, and you're listening and you want to, you know what I mean? And that they are just out of tune. And they don't understand that there's a reason for this that is going on. And if you would just open up your eyes for a minute, you might be able to deal with this stuff. I mean, how many times do you bite your tongue when you're around people like that? Or do you jump in and go, you know what? There's actually something else going on here, and let me explain.
I don't really jump in. As an astrologer, there's an old astrologer's, ethical code that goes back since 325, around Constantine's time, where unless you are called upon to be asked about it, that's when you engage. You don't go yourself like some mall psychic and start going up to people and being like, hey, you're going to have a new boyfriend this week and but I need $100, even Aleister Crowley, who was very, crazy figure in our society, especially in the late 1890s to the beginning of the 1900s in New York City as an astrologer, and then went to the crazy side of Luciferianism. Even he talked about, not having a code of conduct with this work. I mean, it's been a code that's been there for a long time. And sometimes when people are in that space, you just watch and allow the universe to finally have their moment. Sometimes people have to get to that moment in life where they maybe get to the tennis court, they get to the house, and then they're empty and they're unhappy. And then they go through a divorce and they don't look at the stuff that they're doing in their lives. And that's their wake up. And then that's when you get that phone call, or that's when you get that person that finally, maybe that they are more connected with, that had told them about it, maybe. And it's really, even as an astrologer, you allow the universe to bring things to you. You don't go after it yourself.
And do you feel, I'm going to interject myself into this conversation. I feel that what I'm about to say is true. Okay. But I want to ask you, do you feel that the world in general is now starting to understand that we are going through a phase now, and they realize that the world is not what it seems? Consciousness and things are a real situation, and that we are moving forward. I think there is a raising of the awareness. Do you think that is going on?
Yes, 100%. I mean, even just seeing everybody at Disclosure Fest and being in downtown LA, and Adrian did such a great job of that festival, to feel the positivity and the awareness, and in the tens of thousands of people that were there in downtown LA, which I felt really needed it after the last couple of years being in LA, was the most beautiful thing I'd felt in a long time. You could feel it. You could feel that we were changing the energy in that city, which needed so much of that love and that awareness and that hope again. And that's really what the scariness of the awakening is, whoa, this is weird, or there's a lot still that we need to figure out. But it's the common connection now that we're all sensing it together, and that we're all starting to put together what we're going to do about it. That's the more exciting part to me.
It's almost tangible, right? I can feel it, and it's an exciting thing. Be careful what you wish for, though.
Exactly.
And here's the other part to this. What I've always felt is that I had a certain comfort in our community fighting to be heard. There's a certain thing. It's a coolness, right? It's a bond. It's our thing. It's our tribe. And now that the word is starting to get out about all of these subjects, right? About the planets, about space, about the universe, about contact and ET and consciousness and vibration and 11 dimensions and parallel worlds and the multiverse. It's like our little secret thing that we fought, to get heard, is now starting to become more mainstream. And again, it's like, be careful what you wish for, right? Can the world handle what's potentially about to happen?
I mean, I think it definitely can. I think that was the whole point of us fighting for it for so long.
Right.
And I think that's what we've been waiting for, is because we know that it's going to take all of us to do something different. This world could be a totally different world. And I think that that's what we're waking up to, is what's been behind this, what's been the great Oz of this world? Who's behind it? And that's what's the weird part about astrology, is like, these weird energies use astrology, but the dark can never use the light. It can tell the light to not do things, but it can never do anything. The dark can never do anything. So that's the kind of irony, is that this is about turning people on to not turn their power off and turn their power away, or take their awareness away from where really the power really is to change this world. We always like to look at these outer, energies, or foreign energies, or UFO energies, or alien energies as if they have all this power. If anything, they're jealous of the power, and all they can do is manipulate, and all they can do is scare people away from the power of us coming together and doing the great work that we're here to do.
The other part about this, which in a lot of ways it's difficult to talk about, and I try to avoid it because I don't want to bump people out or take things in the wrong directions. But we all know what we went through for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. Okay, we all know this, and it's the elephant in the room, right? Okay, but I had said 2.5 years ago that no matter what, this isn't a nuclear war. We don't have to rebuild the planet. We're going to come out of this eventually, and we're going to come out of it better. Yeah. We're going to come out of it loving each other and respecting each other more than we ever have. It may not seem like that right now, but this is going to be the end result of this. Well, here we are. It's 2.5 years later. Do you feel that? Is there a commonality now? Are we starting to become earthlings and not separated by thoughts and ideals and religions and the lines in the sand that divide countries? Are we actually going to move beyond this?
I mean, I definitely feel we're going to move beyond this. I think that it's remembering the beauty that we already have had that we kind of lost. I mean, if you think about all of our ancient ways, our ancient technologies, our ancient ancestors and how much they had to offer us, it's like we kind of, I think that, the big elephant in the room is really science. What is science? The real scientists aren't being heard. And that's been, I think, the problem, right? Is that if we're evolving as a species and we're stepping into this great moment, and that's what the astrology is saying, is we're in super Aquarian times. All these planets have been banging in Aquarius at the door very loudly. And so the real elephant in the room is like, well, where's the human input on any of this stuff? And where's it just feels like a soapbox salesman at the carnival. That's what it was for the last 2 years. And everybody going, okay, that's not the person I really want to listen to. I want to hear the facts, or I want to understand. And also it comes down to our natural human rights too, which I feel like that's something that we've had the whole time, especially as Americans, but even as a globe, we've had all these rights, and people are starting to realize them, and they're going to not, we are the ones that have the power to say yes and no to all these things. And so the astrology is saying that, we don't have to go through like a crazy chaotic, go to the dark side of everything, even though there's been a little hint of all that throughout all this stuff. But I think that a lot of this is what's coming up here, especially as we just come through the end of this 2022 with Pluto about to move into Aquarius here, is humanity's true awakening. And humanity's true awakening, there's been many different ways of how it's been looked at. But I think that it's just going to be, what is a human, and what's defining that, and what are human rights, and what are we as humans here to do? We're not here to just, live in the system in which we live in. There's a much better way. I mean, even just hanging out with you and everybody this weekend feels a lot more human to me than when we all come back to these lives where then we kind of wait to have these great moments with each other, to do this great work and to talk with each other and have music and have fun and have smiles on everybody's faces. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Humanity is actually going through its own schizophrenia of like thinking that like there's this great moral compass book in the sky of how society should be built and done. And we're having to wake up because Neptune's been in Pisces since 2011. And that's the home for Pisces is Neptune. Neptune rules that. And so I'll bring up Aleister Crowley again, but he had some really interesting stuff in some of his stuff in the 1890s. He called Neptune the outpost, like a fortress to the sun. And it's at that outpost that it could hear and sense what's coming into our solar system and report it back. Kind of like how in military, right? We have our outposts and the outpost reports to the fortress. And so it's been interesting as our collective has this huge outpost that we're all tuning into more and more and more and more and more and more. And it's gotten really peaked out at the beginning of 2022 here with Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in Pisces. And that hasn't happened since 1856. Same thing was the outpost it was ironic in the South back in the 1850s into 1860 with the Civil War. There was about 3.3 to 3.4 million people in the South. Only about 3,000 were slaveholders. So 3.3 million people fought for slavery that didn't own slaves, right? It's kind of like people are awakening now to like, what are we doing? Like, there's always this very small percent of people that are getting people to jump onto these bandwagons and do all this stuff when it has nothing to do with them or nothing even in their benefit or any benefit for humanity. So this outpost is the irony too, that, and actually it was Aleister Crowley who wrote this before he became Luciferian, was that Neptune, whenever it gets to the end of the sign, because not only is Pluto getting to the end of a Capricorn here, which rules governments, which rules control, which rules our systems, it rules our grids, right? It rules the way that we structure our lives. So all the structures, and we're seeing the problems in structuring right now as Pluto is exposed the issues and all this. Neptune's exposing this fortress that is getting from an outpost this intuitive hit, and backdoor meetings can happen with Neptune, but them working in the reality will not every time. So that's the irony, is the fear, because we know the backdoor weird meetings and all these groups that we see that are out to kind of control humanity are around. But the irony is when they go to implement it, the divine will never allow that to happen. They'll allow the backdoor meetings, but they won't allow those meetings to come to fruition. And that was written about in the 1890s. That's been written about for thousands of years, that we can't be scared as a humanity of so much that we're scared of. There's no point of it. It's coming together at this moment. And we can't even be scared of the systems that are falling apart right now, because that means a better system's going to come. And even though that scares some people, or some conspiracy theorists go, oh God, then you're talking about New World Order. It's like, no, there's a divine world order. Nobody talks about that one. And that's the human divine world order that we're all trying to figure out what to do, where we all contribute to that.
There was, speaking of Neptune and Uranus, and I like the way you say Uranus, by the way, we'll circle back to that. Mike Brown over at Caltech a couple of years ago, you remember the big announcement?
Yeah.
There's a planetary body out there. It's massive.
Right.
And it's messing with Neptune and Uranus. And you know, is this planet X? Well, maybe, but Uranus and Neptune have always acted funky, and nobody could figure out why. If this is Planet X, and Mike Brown says the math says it's out there, we're looking for it. How does that change things for us?
I think it changes things for us if we were to start thinking about, I mean, you brought up at the beginning of the show how, you know, SpaceX just fired 5 employees. We've seen billionaires that have been shoving rockets up to get to space. What was to happen if we were to see a baby born on the moon or Mars, let's say? How does that change the algorithm to our collective consciousness?
Changes everything.
So I went super left field, but I only went there because bringing in something like that, number one, it's ironic. We talked about Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. That was in 1977. That was when we found Chiron, the asteroid that goes in between Uranus and Saturn, which Saturn's the last planet we see with our eyes. And then we need telescopes to see Uranus, which is why the irony is that space between what we can see and what we can't see. We know there's these outer planets. They're called outer because they literally are out of Saturn's rings of control. And Uranus has been flaring like the sun in the last year, which has been wild. Wild. Like the fact that Uranus has already got its own weird identity of being like, I'm going to go 180 degrees the other way, and I'm going to sit on my side, and I'm going to flare like the sun. And then you have Neptune out there, which of course I always help people in astrology understand Neptune. I'm like, it looks like you want to bring your swimsuit, but the closer you get to it, that's not water, you know. That's gas. And so, you know, we have this gas giant out there that looks all beautiful. It even reminds me of that Ad Astra movie that they did with Ben Affleck. Brad Pitt. And when he went out there with Tommy Lee Jones, and they were out there in front of Neptune, and Tommy Lee Jones lost his mind, right? And he killed his whole crew. It's one of those Neptunian fogs that we can get under as a collective right now. And we're seeing mental health crisis right now. We're seeing all these things. So if we add this last Planet X, what does that do? That's kind of where we're at as a society, though, right? Like we need that X factor to come in to kind of move things into something different. There's something not changing this place all the way. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Planet X would show up. But I don't think that we know truly what it would be, except maybe the defining root, because every planet has a rulership as an astrologer, right? So it's like, okay, we know Mercury's the ruler of Gemini, and we know all these things. But it's like Planet X would be that 13th, kind of factor, or would be that like, right? It's that out of the circle of consciousness that we're all in, that would be the X factor, which of course would be the closest to maybe being not ruled by humans, but ruled by some sort of alien situation. And that's the only thing there is the X factor, is that understanding of consciousness that would change things to move things along. And we feel like we're at this peak right now where it's like something has to just turn enough to finally move these gears into new, where it's like we're all kind of ready for it too. Like, come on, like just do it already. Like, it's kind of like it would definitely have a frustration release kind of energy, moving from like frustration to the satisfaction of, even if it's crazy, at least it's an understanding of something.
You know what you just made me do? I'm listening to every word. We blew right through a commercial break. I'm sorry. I got to apologize to the network. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, the one and only David Palmer. I told you this is going to be a great show. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. More David right after this short break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Producing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate, with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch, roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts, when you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, David Palmer. You know, he's going to be once a month for the rest of my life. I can see this coming. It's just too good. It's too good. We're on the same page here. And I'm just going to say this. Sitchin was right all along. You know what I mean? And I love that part. Can I throw you under the bus just a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Okay. David and I were chatting earlier tonight, and we were talking music and stuff and how we do things and things. And you spun around. Does your audience know? Do your fans, do they know that you do your own music? Are they aware?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You talk about it? Okay. Everybody can see what's going on behind me. I want you to grab what's to your left and show it to everybody. Just do it. I mean, it blew me away. A friggin' Moog. That's what I'm talking about.
Sub 37. Yeah. That's my baby.
You know what's great about music? The world is vibrations. Atoms are vibrations. The universe is vibrating. Music is vibration. And there is something that happens in your brain. Things start to vibrate when you create music. And it's a very crazy thing that happens. And unless you've experienced it, it just sounds like woo-woo. But it's true, isn't it? And you can inspire yourself with just one note, can't you?
Yeah, it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
100%.
I think that's the communication that's beyond. I mean, it goes into even telepathy. I feel like you can look at somebody when you're at a concert and you don't even have to say a word and you just know, like, yeah, that is. And then watching the person who's either on the guitar, whoever's singing, who's ever on the drums, whoever's ever on the keyboards, they know it too. Everybody knows it. There's that everybody's on the same wavelength, that there's no talking needed. Everybody's connected in. That's the best moment in life.
100%. I was I used to work with U2, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm at one of their shows. And I'm in this private VIP area in front of the mixing board, right? It's all roped off, the velvet ropes. And I'm rock. And next to me, to my left, is the biggest movie star in the world. I'm not going to say who, but think the biggest. Whatever. It is pretty close. Yeah, maybe. And we're just in it, man. We're in it. And I look over and we're both, and he high fives me. We were in the zone.
Yeah.
That's what, that vibration brings us to. I never talked to him, but we had that
moment,
man. And I love that when it happens. And today we had that. When you pulled that out, I was like, man, Oh, it's so funny. Okay. Sitchin was probably right.
Yeah.
And his critics and things and the way that he transcribed and interpreted. Okay. All right. But when Mike Brown did that big reveal from Caltech, I thought, holy crap, right? This is a bigger deal than anybody can anticipate, number one. Number two, we've been talking about this in our community for a very, very long time. And I just wish that, Zachariah was around to hear Mike Brown, make this announcement, because it's a certain amount of vindication. But for us in our community, we can just kind of sit back and relax and go, okay, all right, we were right. And it feels good to me. Which brings
think of JFK, right? And how with NASA, and we're going to go to the moon, and we start all these projects, and the American momentum and the NASA momentum for all these decades, and then when it comes to discovery and when it comes to all these things now, it just becomes like a side news story on a science website that they might prop up a little, but we're more concerned over these other things. So it was really weird to see our humanity so excited for all these discoveries, and now it's like a small group of people again. It blows my mind. But it was JFK that really brought it really home for us, and really, put it at the center focus point in the middle of a Cold War and everything. And we're in the exact astrology of when he did that. That's the irony.
Here we have coming up on July 14th is another very, very big deal. And that's Comet K2. And Comet K2, until recently, was the largest comet ever discovered.
Yeah.
And it was so big, we saw it in deep space, right? And until recently, we didn't even know where comets came from. And this is all recent science, right? Well, now we have Comet K2 arriving on July 14th, and it's just today's the 22nd, man. It's 3 weeks away. How big of a deal is this? And especially from an astrology point of view.
I think it's kind of crazy. July 14th of 2020 was Comet Neowise. Same date, July 14th, when it came closest to Earth, and then it dipped by the sun July 23rd. That was a lot quicker. This one's going to dip by the sun in December.
Yeah,
but
6 months
such
out.
a big deal because Hubble's having one view saying it might be 11 miles wide. But then I think some of the telescopes in Hawaii and other places are saying this thing might be 100 miles wide.
I saw that.
Right. So it's like, okay, we really don't know. Have you got James Webb on this one yet or something? Like, I mean, that's where I think that's why James Webb telescope is up there, is because we're having issues right now with math. But I think this is such a big deal because in ancient text, especially whether you go Indian astrology or Western, what's really going to be important is seeing the tail. If the tail is together, it's a comet of good faith coming in, or there's good things coming. If it's a broken tail with 3 tails and it's all broken up, that's usually a sign of bad news. So
no, really?
Yep. Comet Neowise that came in 2020, ironically enough, was singular and it was positive.
And then blew up.
Yeah. But it's kind of interesting though that, that it's funny that they don't bring that stuff up anymore, of course, but that's how it's always been looked at. So to me, I'm always like interested in looking at the tail. What's that looking like? I mean, crazy people have followed comets for a long time. I mean, I'm sure you remember, being in LA during the 90s. A lot of people decided that they were going back to wherever they thought they were going to. I mean, comets definitely are things for us to pay attention to, and they're always they're the most interesting of any astrological body out there in space because they come in like on their own, and they come in fast, and they come in and then they leave, but they leave a big presence, and it's like anything in life, right? It's like a comet that comes in and just whoa in your life, and then sometimes it leaves, but it leaves a mark on you. It leaves an impact. And so the impact, I think, for us to look at July 14th is that's going to be when the sun is going to be in its opposition to Pluto from Earth's point of view. But that means that from helio, meaning if we looked at the sun's point of view, that means that Earth's going to be passing Pluto. And we've been talking about Pluto a lot.
Right.
So it's ironic that at the moment when this comet's going to come in is right when the Earth and Pluto are aligning from the sun's point of view. And so there's a lot that's going to be unveiled for us in our life with this comet. And then ironically, it's going to last until December, until it goes by the sun. That means it's going to be in our solar system here for a minute. It's not going to just, come in and out.
6 months is a long time.
A long time. It reminds me of Comet Elenin in 2012 or 2011 into 2012, which was definitely kind of the 2012 people. I was definitely one of those like 20 bloggers of the 2012 movement. But there was a lot about an awakening. And so this one to me feels like, because we don't know the size, or some people are referring it to K2, the mountain, but it's bigger than the mountain.
Yeah, they are doing that. And I mean, for me, this is another very strange part. If we go, you remember you saw the movie Don't Look Up, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. It was really funny.
I love that. I love that movie.
It was really good.
It was, okay. Before I go, but Adam,
don't go Jonah Hill on me. Or you know, like that was.
But that I was kind of going in that direction. In that, here we have K2 coming, right, and there's this discussion now about not really knowing A, the size, and B, we are having problems with math. They don't know if we're going to be able to see it. Now, wait a minute.
They're telling us to get telescopes out to see it.
Right. But and then others are saying, well, no, it just depends on what's going on at that moment. It may be totally spectacular, but
it's going to be spectacular. There's 5 planets that you can see right now starting July or June 24th going through this period. So there's no irony to me. You can see 5 planets. It takes a long time for that to happen.
What kind of, I wanted to ask you this, what kind of telescope do you have?
I don't actually have one.
You don't?
No.
Okay. I've got one. You'll see it this weekend. I have a medium-sized one. But one of the things, because I live in the desert, I've got every night, right?
Right.
And taking out the telescope and looking at planets is one of the most divine things you can do.
Yes.
To go and look
I go to my buddies who that's all they do. So it's like, okay, there you go, all set up. Let me see.
Well, but this time around, I have to wait for Jupiter, I have to wait for Saturn and things, and then they're gone out of the night sky, and but 5. Right? 5. With the telescope, 5 in the backyard, take your pick, and looking at 5 planets at the same time, just going from one to the other in the same evening, in the same sitting. That's
if you add the moon too, when it crosses by, it's like that's 6 energies. It's pretty wild. And then if you had a comet,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, okay, now we're getting to 7. Like, that's a lot. That's not typical. So there's something magical about to happen. That's, as an astrologer, you go, okay, when was the last time that happened? Well, March 1864. Okay. Again, we just had Jupiter, Neptune, because we can't see Neptune with our naked eye. But if you look where Jupiter is right now, if you were to have a telescope and you were at a long enough one, you would see Neptune right to the side of it. So there's more hidden even behind us that's not really hidden. They know this who look up at the sky. But I think that, when you really think of that was 1856, Jupiter, Neptune, and then we have this 5 planets, hasn't happened since 1864. Like, that's the weird period of the divisiveness in this country and the world. And it was also the Crimea Wars in Russia that were going on, that we're kind of seeing right now with what's going on with Ukraine. So you have to start to put all these things together. Like, wow, there's a lot happening around this kind of similar energies. And then you have Pluto exactly where it was during July 4th of 1776. So that was what created the Declaration of Independence. So we there's definitely, as an astrologer, like the big stuff's coming here. We've only been in the lobby, and it's exciting though. I look at it as exciting. I don't think I came down here for a boring experience. I don't think you did either. So
No, not at all. I'm very excited. I am a firm believer, and I don't know how it's going to happen, but I've got flowers hanging out of my pockets, David. I do. I just feel that we weathered the storm, and it was a rough one, man. Yeah. We really went through this last 2.5 years together.
The Truman Show storm.
Yeah, the Truman
to the
Show.
door. You know what I mean? Like where he just keeps hammering it. Like, I don't care. He's not going to get out. It's like, what?
That, and that's the way that I feel. I just feel that as crazy as it was, you know what? We got through it. Yeah. And we got through it together. It was nasty. Everything else was happening at the same time too. If you really think about, Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and unemployment and airplanes and concerts being canceled and sporting, life just stopped. But we got through it. Now,
and it was so it reminds me of Terrence McKenna and Time Wave Zero and his work he did in the 80s of using the I Ching and also using these time periods, and then 2012 reaching the 0 point in compression of time. If you really think of all the planetary bodies that were in the same spot in 2020, it's like it stopped everything, but at the same time, it's a compression of everything. But there's a rebound. In the universe, there's always going to be the opposite effect. So now there's this huge kind of like, we've been going through these like stargates in the last 2 years. It's been like, and it's like, where's this leading to is the most exciting part of it all.
Do we have to go through these cyclical things? Do we have to go into the darkness and get up to the edge of the cliff every single time? And if that's the case, have we seen the edge of the cliff?
I mean, I was gonna say, I mean, every day we have to get up out of the toilet after we use it. I wish there was a better way, right? But that's the irony of like these times, which they build Teflon and resilience within us, and also I think for a lot of us, it brought inside of us what we all wanted to change in our own lives and what we needed to stop and look at things. And society has been running in a way that nobody was really. If you look at 2019, ask yourself if you were really happy of the way things were actually really going. It's the irony of like, now, of course, we want life to come back in a certain way, but these are great times where things can be adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to have all voices in the room. That's, I think, the problem. Is when people start to just say, okay, this is the group that's deciding it. It's like, no, everybody should have a voice in this one so we can make it better, and that's going to be what something that's going to make everything way different.
One of the things, as we head to the break, I wanted to talk to you about this. One of the things that our DNA, which has been encoded forever, is that when a child is born, you see your mother's face, right? You see your father's face, and you see them smile. You're understanding emotions and their emotions and so forth. This is part of our DNA. We had that completely stripped from us. Right. So, wearing that, and you're not seeing people's faces and their emotions. You don't know anything about them. And fundamentally, we may have been altered, over these last couple of years, and that now masks are off. And are we having problems understanding emotion now? And we're all happy, like you said this weekend, right? Nothing but happiness. It was great. We're seeing smiling faces. Do you think that we were altered as a planet over this last 2 years, and especially children who are going through these developmental stages in life, where things could have been fundamentally altered, and we've got to get back to it? And that may be part of this great awakening. These things came off again, and we understand now what a face looks like.
Well, there's a couple points there. The one thing with Aquarius and what we've been going through has been a great experiment. And I know people can go to the experiments and but I'm saying like a social experiment has been happening too, where it's like, okay, because with all the powers in Capricorn rules control. So a lot of whatever happened over the last 2 years was a lot more planned than not, based off astrology.
Right.
So it's been also the experiment of like, these people can do this and these people can do that. And then these people are not going to be able to do this. This country can do this. This country can. It's like the game of Risk, but like with way higher stakes, and grandma's like finally leaving so we can have a good time, in the game when I was a kid, and like play around with it a little more. But these people are playing around with the game. But you have to remember, when you bring up the DNA thing as a child, like we also, when we're in the womb, eclipses happen. And as an astrologer, we look at our prenatal eclipses, because those are important, because they're the eclipses that kind of embed us. Or if you use human design, which is really big now, we look at your birthday 88 days before you're born. That's the rotation of Mercury around the sun. And so we can find out a lot about what was going on with you. Or if you use, life arc astrology, if you actually really go into like looking at what planets were on your rising when you were born. Tad Mann created that, 18 Man. And it's amazing work that he did, that I could look at somebody's chart and know if you had more medication that your mother took before you came out and you got stuck in the birth canal, or that you were just instantly fast, or that there was a lot of freak out at the moment of your birth. There's a lot that's embedded in us spiritually. And I know that there's a lot of questions about DNA right now and stuff, but I feel that the codes that are from the divine are stronger than anything that can try and alter them. And I believe in that wholeheartedly. And I feel that right now, when we all come together, we have to do more socially. That's literally what Aquarius is that we have to get out of the fear of socializing, because that's creating the worst experiment against us. Is the feeling with the internet and so forth is meant to bring us together literally, and to bring the energy in, but not stay so removed. And that the unfortunate part of what's happening, I think, is the altercation, is that we're like a lot of little rats. And it's like, oh, they finally let open the gate so we can all go in the water area and drink some water together and have some fun. But we need to understand what's happening in the whole entire, are we in a lab? The whole thing is a lab. And how do we get out of the lab? It's Truman Show stuff. And that's the kind of crazy part. The way you brought up the storm came through, and it was like, you could feel that there was something purposely hit. It was not natural. A natural hurricane comes, a natural this, a natural that. Whatever came through did not feel natural. And that's how you can tell as an astrologer, or anybody from the old Hermetic ways or any of the ancient ways, like, okay, and not to be scared of that, but go, okay, that's not natural, but how are we going to move through this to understand what natural is?
Right.
And not be so afraid of that either.
Right. Man, that's heavy. That's heavy. Look, you got me in the zone again. David, you got to stop this, man. Let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. David Palmer is with us. Now, when we come back, I'm going to set this up. I want to know what the ancients knew, and how do we screw it all up? All of that and much more. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, VX.
2022 MUFON Symposium is in Denver, Colorado, July 7th through 10th, and it's on. If you can't make it to Denver, get the live stream. You can watch it live and anytime later. This year's theme is UFOs in the Spotlight. Our speaker lineup is incredible. Join Cheryl Jones, Peter Robbins, Michael Schratt, Kathleen Martin, Tom Reed, Paul Hynek, Peter Davenport, Dave Scott, Craig Campobasso, Donald Schmidt, Mark D'Antonio, and me, Ron James, for an exciting inside look at my new film, Newsflash, Congressman Tim Burchett has just confirmed that he will be making an exclusive live presentation at MUFON 2022. Tim is the most outspoken member of Congress on the UAP topic. You do not want to miss what he has to say. Sign up for our live stream. Get all 3 days of the MUFON Symposium, a 1-year subscription to MUFON TV, and an awesome free gift. What's the free gift? Find out at MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. That's MUFONSymposium.com/Jimmy. You do not want to miss a thing.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here. You've seen me with my Thunderstorm. Now you can purify the air in your home and get healthy, clean, fresh-smelling air and eliminate odors just like I do right here in the bunker. The EdenPURE Thunderstorm uses oxy technology that naturally sends out O3 molecules into the air, which seek out odors and air pollutants in your home and destroys them. It's called a thunderstorm because it purifies the air just like after a thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 on an EdenPURE Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. With this special offer, you're getting 3 units for under $200. Seriously. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use Fader3. Shipping is free and it's easy. Just scroll down. You'll see my name right there, Jimmy Church. Click on it and get your deal today. That's EdenPureDeals.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unex Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNXDB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. David Palmer is here. I'm really enjoying the chat room tonight. You guys are too much. You're the best. And I see that David stopped by too as well. And it's pretty lively in there, isn't it, my man?
It's going crazy. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
So much fun. And we have a family here, and there's no negativity. No negativity. That's it. You can leave it at the door. You know what? You know how I deal with social media?
How do you do it?
I just block.
Yeah, block.
Any hint It could be a friend. I don't care, man. I don't need that in my world. Which brings me to what I want to talk about next, which is ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, David, for 2,000 years, bliss, right? They got it. They understood. And it was the heavens. It was astronomy. It was the arts. It was religion. No wars. I mean, it was 2,000 years. And if you think about, what we've been through in the last 100 years, just imagine 200 years of 2,000 years of no war, of understanding self and consciousness and the planets and the heavens and the stars and putting it all together and making sense of things. They truly got it. But then we got amnesia. What happened?
Well, I mean, if we really look at the pyramids, let's just take the Great Pyramids. They're all pointing up at the star Sirius, which happens to be in Cancer. It happens to be in the opposite side of the Southern Cross, which is where the galactic center is, to where it's almost like where we're headed into the future. So they were very future oriented. Even when we had a pharaoh die, they were mummified and they were in a system that was about rebirthing in the divine, per se. But there's a lot of questions as an astrologer to that. And why aren't we doing stuff like that now? I mean, we use a time system and a calendar system, which is actually from the 2,000 years that we've been in, which comes from the church. So they weren't using 7-day weeks. They weren't living in that system. So if I think of a calendar, right, it's the most boring and bland thing on the planet. It just has numbers and dates, and it just keeps going into infinity of 0 blank days. And once in a while, you have a holiday, like a day that has a name on it. And like, there's nothing special about that, right? It just goes off into, it's just endless drone kind of blah, blah land. Whereas even if you go back from the end of ancient Egypt into Greece, people would meet to understand where we were in the timing and the center square and the day in the months, but it was all based off lunar cycles. And it was all based off, okay, when they see the full moon, we're going to meet here. And then we're going to start naming this day like a number and a Roman numeral and things like that. And this would be this month, and we'll all meet at the next lunar cycle. That we were connected to the divine and the stars through all these ancient civilizations. The Mayans used Venus for their calendar system. You can go, I mean, Mesopotamia is really where astrology started, and Babylon and in the Middle East. And if you look at this, they still have remains. We're lucky if we could even, Amber Heard's remains aren't even around anymore.
Right.
Sorry. But like that's the world we live in today, where it's like, are we really building anything that's conscious?
Yeah, the oldest thing in Southern California is like the original McDonald's in Downey.
Yeah.
Right?
Or maybe Manly P. Hall's library, or
Griffith Park. Yeah. Right. And that's it. That's all we got.
The Fontenoy, it's just like, oh man, that was the tallest building in Hollywood, I think, for up until the 60s.
Yes, it was. Oh man. Okay.
I've been in that building a lot. I used to live on that street.
Yeah, it's a great building, by the way.
Yeah.
It's an amazing.
But that's the whole point, though, is that everything was guided and divinely guided from intention.
I lived next to the Fontenoy. Where did you live?
I lived on Whitley. I was in Whitley Villas, where Sonny and Cher wrote "I Got You, Babe."
Yeah, I was a block away from Whitley. Oh,
yeah.
That's crazy.
And I purposely, intentionally went there to be a celebrity astrologer. I said, if I'm going to be in the media and on TV all the time, I'm going to live. All the actors lived on that street, lived in the Fontenoy. That's where
everybody.
If you were, and that's where what's his name? Charlie Chaplin built his building too. So I intentionally went there. This is a good example, right? I intentionally went to Hollywood, to the first street that was paved, that Mr. and Mrs. Whitley, who owned Hollywood, that created Hollywood, which is of course the wood of a magician's wand. And that was the first street. I went on that street. I lived there and I became a celebrity. It was insane.
I did the same thing. I did the same
That's
thing.
crazy that you and I both had the same but that's
crazy to me.
the ancient way of doing things.
That's crazy to me.
That's how you do it.
I want to talk about astrology, but it's so easy to just go sideways
But
into
that's astrology, though, right? Like there's a meaning and a purpose to what you're aiming towards and what you're looking at. And astrology doesn't have to just be planets. It's the understanding of intention, of aligning yourself in a certain place for a certain reason. And that's when you can get really big with it.
So going back to ancient Egypt, everything was there, right? You had
batteries.
Well, what's crazy to me is the shafts that come out of the Queen's chamber and the King's chamber pointing at Orion.
Right.
The Sphinx at Leo rising.
I know.
Very intentional things. Now, when I go outside, this is and I look at the constellations now. I get it, but I have computers that help me get it too as well. But now I see it, right? I can't help. I'm looking at Orion today, and yeah, of course the belt. But man, I see the bow and arrow. I see the bull. Right. I see it. But the ancients saw the exact same thing. They made the exact same connection. Going back to Göbekli Tepe, and the same zodiac signs were there 7,000 years before Egypt.
Correct.
Is it that they totally got it, right? They totally
they didn't see the same tree that you and I see on the 101 freeway. So, but they do see the same sky that we see.
That's right.
They share that common denominator. But I was just in Utah at Don't Trip, and I was teaching at night at 10 p.m. I was teaching people how to read the stars. And what I think is important for people to know about it is when we look at the sky, we look at the ecliptic, right? All the constellations, the sun, the moon, and the planets all follow the same line. I know there's a lot of constellations out there, but for some reason, the divine wants us to focus on this band and where all the planets are and where all even the comets are going to be and everything, right? Everything happens to just be in the same energy. So it's almost like, if you think of why we're trying to understand where did we go wrong from ancient society to now, it's almost like our society today is playing in all the constellations that aren't on the band where everything's happening. They're just getting lost into, there's no highway system, there's no guidance system. So it's almost like the GPS, it's just like going off grid, which is not a bad thing, but it can feel isolating and not connected to the one thing that brings us all together in understanding this universe and understanding our day, our time, and the real divine time of life. And that's why our calendar system's broken. And the idea of it too, to prop up, if you even think of July and August, right? Julius Caesar, Augustus Caesar, and they get 31 days. But February now, it gets 28. Maybe 29 if we have this leap year every 4 years. It just doesn't make sense. That's math. That's just like how they're giving us the wrong math on K2. If our math is off, then our society is off.
Is it intentional? And or even more crazier than that, is it something that even if we wanted to fix it, we couldn't? Is it like entropy, right? Is it just what the universe is going to do? And maybe we don't have the free will that we thought. And this is just inevitable, right? Since 1995 in the invention of the internet and the ungluing of the world, instead of bringing us together, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think the age of Pisces, which we're ending, is a society going through 2,000 years of complete unconsciousness to become super awake and not woke, awake in Aquarius, right? So I always say that our biggest free will decision was to come down here.
Keep going with that.
And because if you really think about our lives, gosh, I mean, I remember being in school and just being like, I can't wait to be a senior and get out of school. I never wanted to go to college because I just didn't like school. So I literally counted the days sure, you could probably free will to get out of that, right? And I probably could have, and I did ditch a lot, and I could have done all that, but like, there's a moment where it's like, gosh, that's gonna be a lot harder to try and figure out my life and all that. So I'll just get through this moment, and then I'll turn 18. It'll all be okay. It'll all be okay. I'll figure it all out. And then that one is when it got even crazier. You know what I mean? Like, what? I thought I was doing this, or gosh, how many girls have I thought was the one, and they didn't turn out to be the one. I mean, like that's the weirdness in this reality, is that we're at a place to where, we have to start to look at like our will is different than free will. And I think that we need to be more connected to the willpower and how we show up to life, opposed to this idea that if we had free will, you would choose to not have to eat all the time, or that you're think of it. I mean, Sam Harris does a great job of pointing out how we don't have free will. I mean, just even the fact that we have to breathe constantly, that we don't have control of that. We could say even the breath work people out there and all that, no matter how much you can control your breath, God, that would be a really long life of controlling my breath. I would probably go insane. Like it's kind of nice that I don't have to think about that with the BIOS code that our human body already has. But there's also that element, like, gosh, I really like the nighttime. That's why I have blackout curtains. So I can make it nighttime in the day, but I can't lie to myself and know that it's still the second that blackout curtain goes one little direction, it's like vampire life.
Yeah, right.
So we could think that we have all the control and that we have all the free will to do whatever we want. But the idea of free will is if you could do whatever you want, you would still be using what's in this system and in your divine understanding of this world and be playing it out in another place. So you'd say, well, I'm going to fly to some alternate universe. You're already using the idea of universe. You're already thinking of it in a human way. So the real idea of free will is not there, in the sense that you would only be using what you've ingested in movies or from what your culture is, and trying to project that into this other kind of dimensional understanding, but it would still have all the things that are aligned with where you don't have free will. That's the crazy part.
That's the crazy part, where to me, it kind of comes down to math. It just comes down to what atoms are doing. It just comes down to, right, where the galaxies formed on their own, right? Or is this just what math does? And it just, everything just unfolds and unfolds and unfolds. And you're right about Sam Harris. He points this out, and he does it very elegantly. And I listen to him more than I should. But I'll say this about Sam. I think he understands consciousness more than the rest of his atheist buddies do.
He does.
He's
a great interpreter for people to understand some important parts of it, especially when you go into the free will debate. He has a very analytical, but very, very good way of having people become more aware of how to use what we would like to call free will in a better way.
If anybody crosses over from that group, it's going to be Sam Harris.
Oh, yeah. I think the same way about Bill Maher, too, about like what he's doing.
Maher,
he's doing a great job right now of bringing the center back. And we need that in our country. So
You're
it's
right
like there's these amazing things that are trying to bring us back to humanity right now. And sometimes people can pick a side too much. And I think it's important to always be open to all sides right now and listen to all sides and take the best of what it is so we can all bring it together. Because that's our real willpower is how we can come together. That's the true will of the people, right? And that's something that's coming back up with our Constitution, but especially our Declaration of Independence. It was the will of a bunch of people to be independent. And that's a big question with the astrology of, like, as we go into Aquarius and we go into Pluto here, is there going to be a monarch? I mean, the Queen, there's some weird thing going on here with the Queen. Her still here and couldn't make the last day of her Jubilee. They got Charles up on the horse. It all kind of feels like what's really going on here, like the governor generals of Canada and Australia and like those poor countries and what they had to deal with over the last couple of years, and their freedoms being taken away in the most craziest ways, all connected to a monarch. And so that's where this gets to a big question of the liberty, not so much in America, but around the world now, is if they can follow what America already had to do 248 years ago, 246 to be
It's
precise.
crazy. You cross the border to the north and see what's going on there compared to, we can complain down here.
Canada's scarier than America, and I never thought that would be true.
I never would have thought that would be true. Oh, I wanted to tell you. You know who centers me?
Who?
The other Bill. Bill Burr.
Bill Burr, yeah. He's hilarious, though.
Bill Burr centers me, man.
I know.
He centers me. And when I find myself leaning one way or the next and I need to get right back to and kind of see both sides, it's Bill Burr, man. It's Bill Burr. It's who.
There's a lot of great people that are doing that. I even think Joe Rogan does a good job of it, being willing to get everybody on and talk. It's crazy because you could just see where everybody's going. And people are going to places that we're told they're going other places, but they're really not. The numbers don't add up to where they say people are going, right? And that's a leaving of the Oz world, right? I think it's funny that Dr. Oz is running for congressman too, and he's in the middle of all this. And
yeah, he's in the middle of it. Now, here is this is where this conversation is actually going. I keep going back to our community, right? Conspiracies and craziness, and
I love it. It's great.
I love it, right? But suddenly, conspiracy is the new normal, right? Like now it's in the media. Now it's this and to discuss this, and it just, the whole world was on the conspiracy bandwagon, and anybody that was around me that was never discussing any of this is suddenly talking about it, and I wasn't cool with it. I'm going to be, and let me tell you why. You can deal with a conspiracy. You're not going to lose your mind.
Correct.
Right? This community knows how to deal with it. We know how to discuss it, think through it, and
have meetups where we all talk about it and kind of straighten each other out.
That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah, have a cookout, cook some food.
Yeah, and we've been doing that for decades. It's been part of our. It's more in a question form, like that's possible.
Right.
Right. But I'm not fully on that yet. I want to talk to you about it. Oh, you know what? You bring up a good point about that. Okay. Right. But the fact that it got smothered everywhere and that people just buy it the second it's sold, and that the mental health crisis and where it's at, it's a bad combo altogether.
How did that happen so quickly? Was this in the stars?
Yeah, this has been Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces now, and the buildup of Neptune and where it's been since 2016. Neptune and the South Node met in Pisces, and it was square Saturn, and that was also when we saw the collusion, or was there, what happened during the election of Hillary and Trump? There was a weird thing, right? Like the whole world was told that Hillary for sure got in the bag, Trump wins. That's the first sign of, media is not really telling the truth, right? So that wakes up people, and that was actually an exact astrological alignment that's so rare. In Vedic astrology, for those out there, it'd be Ketu and Neptune meeting, and in direct 90-degree aspect to Saturn. Well, all that's been bringing up over the last 6 years to this peak out that just happened in April of 2022. And so right now we're in this peak moment where everybody's looking at everything like it's like Wizard of Oz, where everybody's like, I see you, and Toto ran behind, and I see you. Okay. But now everybody's like got a little Toto that's running behind and saying that this is that. These people eat people, and nobody knows. Nobody knows anything. Nobody has any of the facts. So that's where it gets to where in consciousness we can go too far, and to where that goes to crazy. And so we all have to, remember the fundamentals of science. And that's the problem, though, is when you have science manipulating the science to be on a narrative for so long, it's where chaos has become more than order, right? They're trying to use order to give the chaos more power, which that's crazy. And so I say that the pendulum between order and chaos, the girl has been backflipping off the swing, and we've never been here before. Usually pendulum's back. The pendulum's not swinging back right now. It's back flipping. And so, yeah, humanity's flipping out. But there's a lot of us that are here to help ground it. And people eventually, once they flip out enough, then they come back, slowly to be able to get a grip again. So, we're going to be getting a grip, but, it's going to take a lot of us to create like what Disclosure Fest was, or how you do your radio show every day, of people showing up and offering information and offering places for people to talk things through, get different perspectives, and really be there for each other in great ways and help each other through these times.
Okay, before we do this, I'm watching the chat room. We're not going to end the show. You're going to stay with me, and we're going to do some overtime, because if I tell them right now and say good night, David, it's going to light up. And
700 people upset in the live right now alone.
This is, this is just a very small part
of YouTube. This is just on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on 12 other networks.
I know.
But here's the thing. So everybody just relax. Okay, we're not going to end this just as no entropy is.
They want the X factor.
Right. Yes. Is this? I had friends since high school. It happened a few times, that came at me in the last 2 years going, I can't talk to you anymore. I'm done.
I know.
Right? I'm like, wait a minute. We spent 40 years fighting and having a good time. Right? What's going on now? And we're talking about families that were, you know what I mean? And just this angst that just seemed to come out of nowhere. And instead of me trying to help out, going, you know what, there's something else going on. Let's just talk through this. We'll be fine. And no, right? It's like that's it. And they bought into these different conspiracy theories, and it just blew my mind. And so quickly too. It was like overnight.
Well, and that's what's scary, is because we're seeing conspiracy in every place, whether it's the fringes to the independent media and the mainstream media. So it's all of it has to be looked at the same level playing field, and have a dissertation done on it by us as a collective and by individuals that come together, and everything has to get through the filter of what we normally would. Nothing has a hall pass, as that's always truth at this moment. We have to sometimes go back and make sure that things are truth. I mean, right now the math's wrong about why James Webb Telescope's out there, is because the math was wrong from Hubble and everything. That's why they put it out there. They're like, actually, the rate in which the universe is expanding is changing. Uh-oh.
Wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
There was supposed to be that constant, and even that's changing.
Even that's changing.
You know what's weird? I've got 15 seconds. It doesn't matter what you do these days, right? You can go, man, I love a good cheeseburger with mustard. And then, see, that's the problem. Cheeseburgers in the New World Order. And you're not listening to me. I'm like, wait a minute, man. Slow down for a second. I just like cheeseburgers. It has nothing to do with Benghazi,
or Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah, or Jimmy Buffett. Let's take our break right here. We're going into overtime with David Palmer. Everybody just relax. I've got things to talk about. We're going to do all of that next. David Palmer on Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
You're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the X.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl, Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hello, Fadernauts. Jimmy Church here, and I know what you're thinking. Lately, Jimmy sounds so fresh. He's so alert. He's so now. Well, that's because of biotech research and their new supplement, BrainPEAK 9. BrainPEAK 9 contains 9 nutrients that may help support brain function of memory, concentration, recall, and improve focus. Other memory supplements can cost as much as $129 for a 60-day supply. But right now, for a limited time, if you use the discount code FADER, that's right, FADER, just for the Fadernauts, you'll get a 60-day supply for just $49. There's no better time than right now to see what others have been raving about. Help improve your brain function. Go to BrainPEAK9.com and enter the discount code FADER. That's right, for the Fadernauts. That's BrainPEAK9.com. Discount code FADER. And the links are over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Click on it now. Seriously.
This is Billy Carson, founder and CEO of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv is the fastest growing and one of the most watched networks in the world. And I would like to personally invite you to check out our expanding library of TV, film, lectures, and special presentations. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv has over 6,000 videos covering lost history, health, UFOs, spirituality, and our future. We are committed to our community, and with my personal invitation, you can right now get your own free 30-day membership at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Your own library of information starts today at ForbiddenKnowledge.tv.
Your 1 million gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, the X.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? Unix Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. It's overtime. It's overtime with David Palmer, and you saw this coming, everybody. This is nothing that anybody is surprised about. There's no way that this show was about to end. And but David, what the heck have you done to the chat room, man? It's like at now it's all food. It's got me thinking. It's a good thing I cooked before
I
the
think
show.
because you bring up cheeseburgers, and then people were in there and saying they want to go to Wendy's, In and Out, and I brought up, oh, give me a Frosty. I was like, and then it just went out of nowhere.
Okay, all right. When we get to overtime, I like to have some fun. I wanted to talk about the James Webb Telescope.
Yeah,
and we'll circle back to that. But the big Southern California debate: In and Out or Tommy's?
Oh, that's hard. I would say In and Out. It's reliable.
Yeah. That's a tough call, though, isn't it?
It is, especially being in Hollywood. I used to go to Tommy's. I wouldn't go to In and Out.
Well, the In and Out on Sunset and La Brea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But
it's like good luck getting anything for 45 minutes minimum.
Right. Oh man, but that was always
Tommy. Sometimes I could roll up and it would just be, I'd walk up and just be like, boom, and they'd be cool, and I tip them a little more and they'd get it done, and bam.
That's so funny. This is, everybody listen to me right now. What David just said is the truth. You want In and Out. You're driving and you're like, oh no.
I know.
Tommy's.
Why did I even drive to Sunset?
Right,
like, why did I even go and waste my time to go there and then to turn back around and go on Hollywood and go to Tommy's at the end?
It's
I've been through that many times.
Many times. I love Tommy's. I really do.
They're cool. It's like, it feels more family. The people that work there, you can talk to them.
Yeah, and Tommy's has root beer floats to go with that.
And their fries are those bigger steak cut fries you can get. Yeah.
This is the Southern California conversation, man. It's Tommy's are In and Out. Now the James Webb. Okay, the James Webb, along with tests and everything else that we've got going on. Everything is now integrated. We have a 3-point celestial thing that's going on right now, and combined with everything on Earth. Now, here's the crazy part. We now know that we have 40 billion or more Earth-like planets in the Milky Way with water in the Goldilocks zone. That's crazy town. 20 years ago, we had 5.
Right.
5. Right.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Now it's 40.
I don't even think McDonald's has served 40 billion burgers yet.
Not yet. Soon, though, when the aliens arrive. And so, but the James Webb Telescope, its mission is to find life and to look at atmospheres. How crazy is that? You've been studying the planets and the stars, most of your life. The ability to look at something that's 10,000 light years away or 1 million light years away and actually see its atmosphere and signs of life.
Yeah, and the fact that they're using these mirrors that are perfectly mathematically coming together over time to align up. It kind of feels a little bit alien itself, the way it looks, the way it comes together. Actually, it almost kind of reminds me of how insects are. There's like a little insect out there.
Very much, yeah.
Right? But then that they're using infrared light too. That it reminds me of how the quad computer came out in 2019, and then that kind of got hushed over 2020, of the ability to process what a normal supercomputer could do in 2 seconds, like all the data of all of our social media and everything, every combo we've had. The quad supercomputers now can literally take all that data within 2 seconds of the whole world, like that's ever been done. And you could type in a question like, at what time of the day does people usually get mad at each other? There you go. Are they connecting that to the telescope is my big question, with the data to process all this stuff fast. Like there's a lot that's connected more, I think, now that we're connecting all these systems, but then we're turning off Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 right as James Webb's is about to really take, because we've taken some images, but not like the full blown yet.
Yeah, and we're a week away.
I know. And again, the Comet K2 is about a week away. All the 5 planets started about a day and a half. That's where, as an astrologer, it's much more than planets and what's your zodiac sign and does your Mars and my Venus meet up. It's looking and being an observer of all the things that are happening in our celestial and our super celestial, as it's called, from John Dee back in the day in 1564, and seeing that there's these bodies that we are living in and these outer bodies that we're living in, and understanding the, whether you want to call it the aquarium we live in or the solar system we live in or the universe we live in. And we're getting to a point to where CERN is turning its power to the highest it's going to be over the next 2 weeks as well, to smash particles again at the highest rate it's ever done at the same time. What is really going on?
We're opening a portal to it.
Yeah, I mean, we've already been through so many. I'm like, I guess I'm ready for this one. Actually, some girl hit me up today about it and was just like, oh yeah, it creeps me out. And I was just like, could be really fun though. I get, like I thought Sliders was a cool show. I'm like, geez, this is way better. This is going in a whole nother dimension. And I think the James Webb Telescope is about to show us stuff that we haven't seen or thought of.
I just figured you out right now.
Did you?
You're John Dee.
Well, that's funny. I did a whole school and I cracked. He has a book called The Hieroglyphic Monad.
Yes.
Which is the sacred symbol of oneness. And
Yeah.
it's said on Wikipedia that you cannot crack it because it is said in a language that was only for people of that time.
That's right.
And all last year, I did a school where I cracked it from top to bottom.
You're John Dee, man. I just figured that out.
I cracked his whole entire book. It was insane. And it brought me to this understanding of spirituality that blew my mind. He was one of the smartest people in the last millennium. I mean,
yeah, no, there's no question about it. A time machine, right? People talk about this all the time. One of the great, it's so romantic. The thought of being able to go back and either observe or maybe change your mistake, whatever. It's just lost love, whatever, right? This romantic thing about time travel. Well, I would want to go. I definitely would want to see how the pyramids were built.
Yeah,
the crucifixion. That would be that.
We see that kind of every day on our news. So
yeah, we do. Okay, there's a certain appeal to that, but pyramid, right? I would like to go hang out with John Dee.
Me too.
Man, could you just, what was going on? Newton too. Newton
100%.
Yeah, Newton he was an alchemist, man.
I know.
He was into Hermeticism. He was into
they were both around in that transition of science and spirituality splitting apart, where Newton was like one of the last ones who held the line.
He did. He was. And see that he's misunderstood, and I'll tell you why he's misunderstood. He had an open mind to everything, and he dove into everything, whether it was the Bible. Yep. Whether it was philosophy, the hard sciences, dude created mathematics. Okay, yep. So the modern of everything. We think about the apple and the tree and gravity. That's a very small part of his life, but to this day, we get to the planets because of his original math.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
And he was using a lot of the Rosicrucians and the Hermetic alchemists of those time, and John Dee was one of those and was part of the Rosicrucians.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what brings up the Masons and so forth, which brings us into this country. But all that's been hijacked. Like I feel like, to go into some conspiracy, right? We see like in the celebrity world and stuff, people think like they're Masons and all that. I'm like, no, there's like a false Illuminati out there acting like there's some cult or Illuminati, but they're not going to the real like ancient ways and using all those things. It's like a joke. Like I get calls from the Masons all the time asking me to join because astrology is one of the things that you have to know as a Mason, and they don't have any people left to do it. They're like begging me. I'm always like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Right. Well, one of the things, and I suggest this to everyone. I'm glad you did what you did with John Dee. I suggest to anybody, if you really want to do the deep dive and have your just cranium for real, Go study the life of John D. Most
people have no idea. That guy would have been today's world, like made Elon Musk look like a baby.
I totally agree with that. I 100%.
He also created the idea of the British Empire and gave that to Queen Elizabeth I. And that's ironic since it really was his work that worked for her and her monarch and her everybody. And then he kind of wasn't trusted because he was playing around with all the divine, and she was trying to hold the Church of England together, but also dealing with the whole Catholicism thing on how do I, doing what her dad didn't want her to do. But, like that's where he's the one who came up with that British Empire that we see today.
100%. He was running things behind the scenes, not running, but advising,
and using all these tools.
Hermeticism and alchemy and astronomy and the planets and math. I mean, his understanding of all of this was just absolutely incredible. And so when we talk today, and I'm not being cavalier here. When we talk about an Einstein or Newton or Copernicus or a Galileo or Socrates, Plato, pick a mind, right? John D needs to be in that conversation. And you can bring up Plato, you can bring up Einstein, and people know these names. But you bring up John D, who?
It's because his work, and they literally say in Wikipedia, can't be translated, which to me was like, really? Let me go into it, with the Hermetic mind. Let me use the Hermeticism I've learned my whole life. Let me use these tools. Let me use the astrology. And it was like, he was able to show that if you take the glyph of Mercury and you were to look at it, it's all the inner planets all together. Mercury is Venus too. It also has Jupiter and Saturn in there and Mars. They all fit into one glyph, which he called the hieroglyphic monad, meaning that everything in life that is natural should fit within itself. That means that the planets, their glyphs, all fit into one glyph, which is Mercury, which is the understanding of the Hermetic mind, which is the divine mind. That we think too cranial with the mind here on Earth and the scientific mind, or even if you look at old alchemy pictures, you always see the monkey on the Earth, with its geometry, like scales, like trying to figure things out. But you always see the woman above who's connected with the stars to the divine. That science can only do so much, but a scientific, spiritual mind can connect all the dots. That they show that in every glyph, in every image, and in every way to understand the terrestrial, because these are terms that ironically are kind of used today, but they're really not understood by a lot of people. That to understand the terrestrial, you have to understand the celestial and the super celestial. And that's what James Webb Telescope is doing for scientists, that we don't get to see or hear their own belief systems anymore. They're not writing papers unless, they're behind a university and they're checked. Whereas in those days, people went with where they ever felt they were to go. And even if they were criticized or they were whatever, it made an impact. And I think that that's the problem, is that we can't, as individuals, be afraid, no matter where you're at, to put out whatever the work is that you have and not be afraid of the criticism or be afraid for people to think and not make full understandings of it, but have people offer their insight or add to it. Or if it's valid, you'll see that work and more people connect to it. If it's not, then it will just fall to the wayside,
where we're talking about K2, 5 planets, James Webb finally going online.
So
happening at the same time. What happened last week was probably one of the most incredible, but there's a part 2 to it. Chinese announced that their fast telescope made contact with aliens. We got an alien, their words, not mine,
right.
Their official state newspaper said, we've got alien radio signals. We've detected, and they pinpointed where they were coming from.
It's like that movie Contact. Remember that movie?
But check this out. 2 days later, articles pulled down.
No way.
Yeah.
We were on the air last week, right when that happened.
Yep. 2 days later, gone.
Ooh.
Like it never happened, gone.
Well, and it's not like, I think that's also the kind of we're in a weird world where we automatically think, oh, it's just China. I mean, they have drone military aircraft carriers that they just launched in the last month, right? Like they're way more superior right now in technology than we are in America. So if they're putting that out, I'm going to pay attention to that more than what we're kind of hearing from.
Now let's say this. Now I talked to Avi Loeb at length about this a couple of times on this show, and you brought up the movie Contact, and I pushed him on this issue that if the Galileo project, Harvard University, Avi Loeb, if the Galileo project gets something, right? I mean, like, right? The real deal. Is he prepared for our government to run interference, like what just happened in China, right? And he says no, that this is private and they're aware of these issues. But if they make the breakthrough on this, that they're going public with it immediately. It's the same thing with the James Webb. If the James Webb, I mean, like, something happens, is there a free path to the news, right? That we actually get this news, or is it going to be blocked and interfered with, like what just happened with China, what potentially could happen with Avi Loeb and with the James Webb? They're all looking for the same thing. They're all doing it, right? They're all doing the same thing.
Or does whatever sent that signal receive an infrared signal from James Webb and then send something back that's a little bit louder than just the Chinese here?
Sure.
Right? Like to me, it's kind of like that James Webb telescope, those 18 mirrors aren't like normal mirrors and just like, showing up. There's something big and powerful being transmitted that we're transmitting, and we're receiving a transmission. And again, that kind of goes to the beginning of the show, this kind of out and in.
Right.
That we're in these in-betweens of these out and ins, and now it's getting to higher X factor points.
And so if you
when can you hold the lid off any of that, right?
Yeah,
like
that's my biggest fear. And the movie Contact is crazy. Carl Sagan wrote that. Now let's not forget.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie.
It's one a lot of people forget about too.
Arecibo. And so here we have Arecibo, right? Which is no longer, and now it's the Chinese with the 500-meter radio telescope that is doing the job of Arecibo, but we don't have that information. And the Chinese announced before they pulled the article down, they said, yeah, this is alien, but we don't have time to look further into this. They make the biggest announcement in the history of mankind, right? And then at the end of the article, well, we've got a lot of work to do, world.
Yeah, like what? Taiwan.
So if you're NASA, do you take the James Webb and just point towards, I forget the star system that the Chinese picked this up from, but do you just turn the telescope and go in that direction?
I mean, guaranteed they're the kids in a candy store with that thing.
Right.
Like the idea that they're super professional, we're just going to stay looking at this one area. Yeah, right. There's going to be a kid in there energetically, I don't care how old they are, that's going to be like, this has been my life moment. We're turning it over there. Let's see what's over there. Especially after the last couple of years, people are like, screw it. Let's live. Let's see what is it?
And what is worse? For the government to disclose that we are alone, right? There's no life out there. We've never made contact. No, these are the facts, or we're in contact with aliens.
I think it's worse that they're playing stupid right now. Like, we know there's stuff, but we really don't know. Like, hello. Like, or when they got grilled at the UFO, when finally the Congress in the House, when they started grilling them, they were asking about all these different events. And they're like, I don't know. I never heard of that event. It's like, what? And you're in charge over there?
You're running this task force?
Yeah, that was the big, and that was bipartisanship. Bipartisanship was like, what in the heck is going on with you guys?
It was from both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, that's the collective coming together going, there's no divide between left and right now when it comes to real issues. Like, what? Are you kidding me? You guys don't know about the real stuff?
I wanted to ask you before we say goodnight, and what an amazing conversation. And I wish we could go on forever. You'll be back soon enough. But at the beginning of the show tonight, I wanted to ask you this. I've got 2 minutes. There were comments in the chat room that Leos are always at fault. It's Leo's fault. We're the ones to blame. I'm not the most informed in that. What was everybody talking about?
Oh, well, I think especially with all these Aquarian energies we've had, that's the opposite of Leo. So Leo is always going to have fun and always going to ask questions and always go against what is trendy, right? So in these times, if you go against the hive mind, you're blamed. Like, right? So especially just the last couple of years, me asking questions that are opposite of the mainstream narrative have created this, huge just backlash on Leo risings, or anybody with a lot of Leo placements. Like, geez, I'm just trying to ask some questions and have a good time. Like, what? Why is everybody tripping?
After you left the stage, and I got up, you were doing your thing, and I said, David,
and you had Billy Carson come on, who is an amazing person and amazing.
To do that back to back, you, then Billy, and then Robert Grant.
I know, yeah.
Man,
that was powerful.
When I said, I go, David Palmer has lost his friggin' mind. That's what I said on stage, right?
You did. I remember that.
Yeah, and the audience goes, that's why we love him. Tells it like it is. And that's what we did tonight on the show, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we get out of here, when do you put your new stuff out on your own network?
Every day.
Every day.
10 plus years of video every day.
I love it. And leoking.com is
or highvibe.tv is where the network is, or the app's High Vibe TV.
Thank you so much, David. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm going to see you in a couple of days.
Right on, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, bro.
Awesome show. Thank you so much, David Palmer. And again, all of David's links are below. You can go and do that. The Leo King's right there in the Hive TV. So everything is ready for you. Thank you so much, David. And with that, I've got to get out of here. We just went 2.5 straight hours with Mr. David Palmer. It was a perfect show. And tomorrow night, live right here, it's Fader night. It is open lines all night long. Nothing but conversation. What a great show tonight. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are, oh man, I'm trying to do something over on this screen, and I've lost my mouse. Announcers are Steve Hart of Givatoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. And this broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2022 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Until tomorrow night with Fader Night, I want everybody to be safe. Go back, Lee Tappy.